The game of the night in college basketball last night, it happened in Auburn, Alabama. Final score, Auburn 99, Alabama 81. And the head coach of the Tigers is, of course, Bruce Pearl, who is nice enough to join me on this Thursday morning. BP, it's GP. How you doing?
GP, how you doing, brother? You okay?
I'm wonderful. I appreciate you being here. I know how busy you are after a late night last night. 55 points in the first half and kind of cruised in those final 20 minutes. Just what did you make of the effort you guys showed really from the opening tip last night?
You know, Gary, Alabama's a tough cover. You know, they're one of the best offensive teams in college basketball. Nate Oates has got a brilliant offensive mind. He's got a great staff. And stuff they run is hard to guard, particularly from that three-point line and driving it downhill and, you know, different things that they've done. So you got to score against Alabama if you're going to beat them because, they're going to score. And we had the advantage on the inside. We took advantage of that from the jump. The environment in this place. Look, college basketball, maybe the game itself, I don't know there's ever been better. The quality of the games and the upsets But the thing I'm noticing is everybody's coming out. Everybody in the SEC is filling their buildings, but there's still no place quite like Neville.
You know what? I think you're right. I've been to most of these places in the SEC. I tell people all the time that Neville Arena, I was there, as you remember, for a Kentucky game a few years ago on CBS. And even John Calipari, who has seen it all at this point, I remember this moment where he walked out of the tunnel for the first time just before tip-off, and he looked at one of his assistant coaches as the place was going bananas and just sort of did one of those like big eyes, like, "Whoa, boy, this is something here. I hope we're ready for this." How have you, besides building quality basketball teams annually, turned that building into one of the great places in the sport?
Gary, I'm gonna tell you something, and I've liked every place I've been. I've loved every place I've been. This place is special, that's not saying anything negative about anywhere else. It's just to also include, look, this place is special. There are 60,000 kids that applied for 5,000 spots at Auburn University. The kids here love their God, they love their country. It's kind of an old school place. It's really cool to go to a women's volleyball game on a Thursday night here, as opposed to, it's cool to go to a pep rally. We're still in college and we're still having fun. And it's not cool to go out and get hammered or do the wrong things. It's just a really, really nice place. I think the quality of the league has really helped too. We're bringing in team. Look, non-conference, USC comes in here, Bronny James. Virginia Tech comes in here with an ACC, good team, so on and so forth. And then, last night Alabama was in here. That's worth watching. People stand in line. They spent the night trying to watch. South Carolina comes in here Wednesday, 18-2, and Kentucky comes in here next Saturday. So I think it's the quality of the product and the quality of our school and the kids that go here.
How much of a factor is it that the building is appropriately sized? We talk about this all the time in Memphis. The Liberty Bowl is too big for the Tigers. FedEx Forum might be too big for the Tigers. At Baylor, they just built an appropriately sized, less than 10,000 on-campus arena. It looks wonderful. Your place is wonderful. How big of an issue is that we've made it where we didn't need to do 20,000? We've got this where we can make it a ticket that is of high priority every single game.
I don't know, Gary, man. Size matters. Size matters in basketball. Size matters in jewelry. Does your wife want a big ring or a little ring?
Big.
Big. Okay. So size matters in some things. And look, I coached at Knoxville and that beautiful arena. And, we cut it down a little bit to put those suites in. But I do think you're right, though. The fact that it is a very, very tough ticket. We could put 3 times as many people in here on a weekend as we can on a Wednesday. I think as important as the size is, where is the student sitting? Where are the proximity of your students? 3/4 of our on-floor seating are just reserved for our students. And I think that makes a strong statement about where our priorities are. And as a result of their close proximity, that I think is part of the reason why it's such a great environment.
The summer after Auburn hired you, my family and I were taking a trip to the beach, and we stopped in Auburn. I said, let's go see BP, and I spent the day with you, and I walked around the arena. This is before you'd ever coached a game there, and I don't know if you remember this, but I remember it. You said, this is going to be hard. This is going to be harder than it was at Tennessee, and yet you've made it look not easy, but things are going well. You've won 2 SEC titles. You're on track to maybe win a third. How have you gone from that place to consistently having one of the great basketball programs in this country?
Well, that's a great compliment, Garry. And I remember the conversation. I remembered you even stopping in. You're pretty big in the world of college basketball and sports. And, I've known you from Memphis locally and what you meant there. And now I've seen you, grow and develop into a national figure. And here you stopped in at a last place SEC Auburn team. You maybe were on the way to the beach, but you did not need to stop. And you did, to say hello and just to put your eyes on it and to see, I wonder if this is going to be possible. And I wasn't sure, whether it was possible. I had confidence because they were doing it in other sports, football and the women's sports, and a lot of other things. I look, Auburn's got this thing figured out. We'll be able to figure it out here. It was easier to get this going than it is right now to keep this going. NIL, transfer portal, that sort of changed the complexion. I think in some ways for the better. There's no way South Carolina or LSU or Georgia or Ole Miss or some of the teams that had to really revamp their roster could have come as competitive as they are now because of the NIL and a transfer portal. So, like I think at Memphis, I think it's going to be harder for Coach to keep doing what he's doing at the level that Memphis is used to doing because there are things other than that big building and an amazing Tiger fan base that matter to kids, and it's been a great equalizer. So I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to keep it going. But look, Garry, I'm in the middle of it right now. It's not a time to reflect. It's a time to get ready for Florida on Saturday, where they've only lost 1 game. And then how about this? South Carolina comes in. And then how about that? Then Kentucky. I mean, that's kind of where we are right now.
I appreciate that, in a time where coaches are sometimes complaining about the dramatic changes in the sport, you seem to just sort of just tell me what the score is and we'll figure out what we need to do. Do you have any big ideas about where college athletics is heading? Because obviously things are changing pretty drastically.
Yeah, Garry, the product on the floor has maybe never been better. Like if you guys, I know you guys work on the weekends, and it is rolling your eyes at all the nationally ranked teams going on the road and losing to unranked opponents. It's just so good for the game. Here I am getting ready to go to Florida. But the product itself is really, really good. What we're doing with student athletes and education is really, really good. And it's great that the kids are finally able to get, a realistic scholarship and then benefit from their own name and image and likeness. Now, right now, there are just no guardrails. Right now, there's no order. And there needs to be some order around this. And it's not about restricting I'm a capitalist and I believe in the democracy and the freedoms that we enjoy. But at the same time, in almost every sport, there are, some guidelines. And there are just no guidelines right now. That has to change. Whether the NCAA is able to change it or whether leagues decide that they're going to do something different, something's got to change. What we're doing right now is not, I don't believe, sustainable, but I still think it's good because it's benefiting the kids, and the student athletes have very, very long been not properly rewarded. I've always been a big, school, graduation, so on and so forth, but I'm also making 10 times what I made 10 years ago.
Just a couple more things for you, talking to Bruce Pearl, Auburn head coach. Your team was unranked in the AP poll in the preseason. You open with a high-profile game against Baylor. On the wrong side of that, then you lose at Appalachian State. The computer numbers were always strong, but the resume wasn't there early. And I read quotes from you early in the season we could have probably started differently than with Baylor on a neutral court. We didn't have to go to Appalachian State. I bet you other SEC coaches wouldn't. Why were you not hesitant to go do these things that so many other coaches are clearly hesitant to do?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's never the wrong time to do the right thing, in the sense that I go on the road and play a mid-major almost every year, or at least every other year. I was a mid-major. I can't possibly go and think I can beat Arkansas on the road in my first game if I can't go to Appalachian State and beat them. Now, look, Appalachian State is picked to win their league. I knew it was going to be a good opponent, but I don't want to bring my kids to Arkansas. And you know what? We went to Arkansas, beat them by 32, and part of it was the preparation we got at Appalachian State. So those are two factors there. I think the other thing too is I'm trying to keep Auburn basketball relevant. How do I keep Auburn basketball relevant? You go play Baylor anywhere you can get Baylor, or you go to USC last year knowing that they're going to have a bunch of pros and coming back here this year. So you've got to do those things in order to keep Auburn basketball, in the because you know what, next year in the preseason we won't be either. We just won't be. That's just how it is, and that's okay. I'd rather prove it than talk about it. And I talk a lot.
I appreciate it. Last thing before I let you go, I know you don't want to reflect. You're in the middle of a season, but forgive me for bringing this up. I noticed it this morning. I think it's notable. You're the 20th head coach in Auburn men's basketball history. The previous 19 in 112 seasons combined to win 3 conference championships. You've already got 2 in the past 7 years, and you are tied for first right now. When I frame it like that, what does that mean to you?
Well, Gary, I care about history. I go to work every day trying to reward, the people like Jay Jacobs that brought me here, like John Cohen, my AD right now, that has got me here, and the president. So I do that. Pat Dye's son reached out to me just this morning and, congratulated us on the win against Alabama. And I got a chance to know Coach Dye towards the end of his life, and he got a chance to see what we're getting started. And, I'm going to take you real quick when I let you go. First game, I'm here one day on the job, and I'm watching a women's NIT game. And I'm sitting with my wife, Brandy, and all of a sudden I look across the face and go, honey, that's Pat Dye over there. Well, she don't know Pat Dye from Pat Summit, so she has no idea. It doesn't. Pat Dye gets up. He walks across the court at halftime. He comes up to me, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is Pat Dye. He says, you're Coach Bruce Pearl. I said, yes, sir. He says, you're our new basketball coach. I said, yes, sir. He says, good luck. And he turns and he walks away. And that was why I got to know him. And then he and I became really, really good friends. He loved Auburn. He saw what we got started. And I know he is smiling up in heaven right now with my dad celebrating last night's win in the Iron Bowl.
It was a tremendous performance last night. Another big victory. You're now 8-2 in the league. I got you up to number 11 in the top 25 and 1 this morning. So I appreciate your time. Congrats on a great season so far. And I can't wait to watch you again. Thanks so much, BP.
Hope we can keep it going. Thanks, Gary.
All right. That's Bruce Pearl, head basketball coach at Auburn.